Welcome back. Yesterday we learned how to simplify rational expressions when your factors are opposite by factoring out a -1. You might have to do some of that on today's assignment, but today's assignment is going to focus more on factoring quadratic trinomials. So let's look at example 2b here. I want to simplify this rational expression. Just like we did yesterday, the first step is to factor your numerator and then factor your denominator. Now, if you notice, the numerator is the difference of perfect squares. So x squared minus 4 factors to the quantity x plus 2 times the quantity x minus 2. The bottom, or denominator, is a quadratic trinomial that has a leading coefficient of 1. So we did one a little bit like this yesterday. Since it has a leading coefficient of 1, I'm going to look at the last number. I'm going to ask myself, what are some factors of -2 that add to be the middle number, which is -1? So I need to find two numbers that multiply to be -2 and add to be -1. So once we find those two numbers, we can factor the bottom. So two numbers that multiply to be -2 and add to be -1 are -2 and +1. Alright, so we got both the numerator and the denominator factored. Okay, so before we cancel things out, let's find our restrictions. So we have two factors in the bottom that contain x. So I'm going to have two restrictions. So to find my first restriction, let's set x minus 2 equal to 0. Add 2 to both sides, we get x equals 2. To find my second restriction, take x plus 1, set that equal to 0. -1, we get x equals -1. So now, let's go ahead and see what cancels out here. Do I have any factors on top that matches on the bottom? I can cancel out the x minus 2 on the bottom with this x minus 2 on top. So what are we left with? We're left with x plus 2 over x plus 1, where x cannot equal 2 and -1. Okay, so let's try another one of these. All right, let's look at A here. We want to factor this. Well, if you notice in the numerator, we have a quadratic trinomial, but what we have going on here, we don't have a leading coefficient of 1. We have a leading coefficient of 2. So we're going to have to use slip and slide to factor this. So we're going to slip that 2 to the back and rewrite the numerator as x squared plus 7x plus 6. So now I need to find two numbers that multiply to be 6 and add to be 7. So those two numbers are x plus 6 and x plus 1, right? 6 times 1 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. But we're using slip and slide. So now we got to slide that 2 back into our factors and reduce. So we get x plus 3, and then 1/2 can't be reduced, but remember we don't leave the 1/2. We slide that 2 in front of the x. So the numerator on A factors to the quantity x plus 3 times the quantity 2x plus 1. Alright, so now we need to factor the denominator the same way. Because we have another quadratic trinomial that doesn't have a leading coefficient of 1. So we can take this 6, slip it to the back. Remember, you slip it to the back and multiply by before. So now we have x squared plus 11x plus 24. I have a leading coefficient of 1, so I can factor the short way here. I gotta ask myself what multiplies to be 24 and adds to be 11. Two numbers that multiply be 24 and add be 11. So positive 3 and positive 8. And again, we're using slip and slide, so we got to slide the 6 back into our factors and then reduce. So 3 over 6 reduces down to 1/2. 8 over 6 reduces down to 4/3. So our denominator factors, let's see, let's slide that 2 to the front to the quantity 2x plus 1 and the quantity 3x plus 4. So now that we have both our numerator and denominator factor, let's find our restrictions. And then we find the restrictions by setting your factors in your denominator that have x equal to 0. So we get two factors that contain x in my denominator. 2x plus 1 equals 0, so minus 1, minus 1. We get 2x equals negative 1, divide by 2, divide by 2, x equals negative 1/2. So one of our restrictions would be x cannot equal negative 1/2. Let's find our second restriction. So we're going to take 3x plus 4 and set that equal to 0. Minus 4, minus 4, 3x equals negative 4, divide by 3, x equals negative 4/3. So x cannot equal negative 1/2 or negative 4/3. And then, do we have anything that can cancel out? Well, we can cancel the 2x plus 1 on top with this 2x plus 1 on the bottom. So our answer would be x plus 3 over 3x plus 4, where x cannot equal negative 1/2 and negative 4/3. Alright, so let's try one more of these. This last one. If you look at this last one, if you look in the numerator, this is a cubic expression. But if you notice, it's a cubic trinomial, but if you notice, all three terms at least contain 1x. So what we can do for b in the numerator, the first thing we're going to have to do to factor the numerator is factor out an x from all three of these terms here. So we're going to pull out an x. So if I pull out an x, what times x gives you x cubed? X squared. What times x gives you 9x squared? 9x. What times x gives you 14x? 14. So the numerator, we can factor out an x. But then, notice what we have left inside here. Now we have a quadratic trinomial that has a leading coefficient of 1. So now we're going to try to factor this. So we still have that x that I factored out, and now I need to factor what's left inside there. At least we got a leading coefficient of 1, so we can do it the short one. So we put x and x down. What multiplies to be 14 and adds to be 9. 2 and 7. So the numerator factors to x times the quantity x plus 2 times quantity x plus 7. And then if we look at our denominator, it's the difference of perfect squares. We got x squared minus 4, so that factors to x plus 2 and x minus 2. So it's easy to see what our restrictions are. Our restrictions are going to be x cannot equal positive or negative 2. And then what cancels out? Well, the x plus 2 on top will cancel that x plus 2 on the bottom. And just like yesterday, I want you to leave your final answer in factor form. So what I mean by factor form is, on top we have x and x plus 7. I don't want you to multiply those together. I don't want you to take x times x plus 7 and get x squared plus 7x. I want you to leave it in factor form. Over x minus 2, where x cannot equal plus or minus 2. So again, I'm going to have you upload a clear picture of your work. Make sure it's clear. I can read it so I can grade it.